Everyone, let's begin with a truth most of us instinctively know, but often forget in the chaos of daily life. You are not just a body in a physical world. You are a consciousness interacting with a field of intelligence that's always trying to reach you. Now, whether you call it God, the universe, the divine mind, or source, it doesn't matter. What matters is you've been called before, you felt it, a nudge, a moment, a coincidence too precise to be coincidence. That's not random, that's intention, that's intelligence, that's a sign. Because when God wants your attention, he doesn't shout, he aligns, he shifts the frequencies of your world. And the first sign he sends is disruption. Not because you did something wrong, but because you've been asleep, living in the same predictable loops, recycling the same emotional patterns, producing the same neurochemical experiences that define your personal reality. And so, when that divine intelligence wants your evolution, it disturbs your comfort. Maybe you lose the job, maybe the relationship ends, maybe your body breaks down, but here's the key, that's not punishment. That's precision, a targeted intervention to break the illusion that your external world controls your inner state. Because when you're forced into the unknown, your survival brain panics, but your soul starts to awaken. The second sign is synchronicity, those uncanny moments when you think of someone and they call, when you open a book to a page that speaks directly to what you're going through, when life seems to orchestrate circumstances just so you notice. That's not coincidence, that's coherence. You see, you live in a quantum field where your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs interact with reality in real time. When your awareness sharpens, you begin to recognize that you're not observing life, you're communing with it. God speaks through pattern, through repetition, through whispers that only the still mind can hear, and the third sign, perhaps the most powerful, is a rising restlessness in your spirit. It's not anxiety. It's not depression. It's activation. That discontent you feel, it's sacred. It's a signal that your current identity, the one built on fear, protection, and past conditioning, is ready to collapse so something greater can emerge. This is the part where most people run back into the old self, back to routine, back to numbness, back to certainty. But if you stay, if you sit in the uncertainty long enough, if you stop trying to fix the world and start rewiring the self, you'll receive the fourth sign, vision, not a hallucination, but a higher possibility. You'll start to imagine a life beyond trauma, beyond scarcity, beyond the limitations your biology once dictated. And as you rehearse that new future in your mind, your brain literally begins to rewire. You become a new being, neurologically, chemically, energetically, and suddenly your outer world shifts, not because it changed first, but because you did. So if you've been seeing the signs, if life has been shaking you, breaking you, showing up in strange, mysterious ways, don't panic, don't run, that's not chaos, that's the call. God's reaching into your timeline and saying, there's more. There's you beyond this version of you. Pay attention. Listen, because when you respond, when you choose to wake up, regulate your energy, elevate your emotion, and align with possibility, you don't just become a better version of yourself. You become a conduit for the divine to move through the world. And that changes everything. Disruption is often misunderstood. Most people view it as a setback, a problem, or even a punishment. But when you begin to see life through a more expanded lens, you realize that disruption is not random. It's intentional. It's the first way the divine intelligence, that higher consciousness we call God, gets your attention. You see, as human beings, we are conditioned to seek safety in the familiar. We cling to routines, habits, and environments that make us feel in control, even if those habits are rooted in suffering or limitation. The brain loves predictability, and the body becomes addicted to the emotional chemistry of our past. So, in many ways, we unconsciously resist change because change threatens the identity we've built. But when God wants to wake you up, when life wants to evolve you, comfort can no longer serve you. That's when disruption enters. It shows up as a job loss, a breakup, a health scare, a financial collapse. It can even show up as chronic boredom, deep dissatisfaction, or a feeling that your life has lost meaning. It doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it arrives in silence and stillness that feels unbearable. This disruption is not meant to break you. It's meant to break the asterisk pattern asterisk. It cracks open the illusion that life is simply happening to you and begins to reveal that life is responding to you. It shakes the ground so your attention is no longer anchored in autopilot. In that moment, you are given a choice: retreat into the safety of the known or begin a conscious relationship with the unknown. And it is in that unknown, where the old self can no longer guide you, that the invitation to transform begins. Synchronicity is the language of the divine, speaking in events, moments, and alignments that bypass logic and speak directly to your deeper awareness. When God wants your attention, he doesn't always use grand, dramatic gestures. Often he whispers through the fabric of your day-to-day reality in the form of meaningful coincidences that seem too precise to be chance. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they message you that day. You stumble upon a book that answers a question you've been silently asking. You hear the same phrase from different people within hours. These are not random occurrences. They are markers, signals from a greater intelligence that there is an unseen order at work. Your analytical mind might try to brush these things off as coincidence, but your intuitive self knows better. Synchronicity emerges when your internal state begins to harmonize with the greater field of intelligence that surrounds you. It is the result of a subtle coherence between your energy and the quantum field. When your thoughts, emotions, and intentions become aligned with truth, with clarity, and with elevated states like love, gratitude, and awe, you begin to tune into a different frequency of experience. And on that frequency, life starts to reflect that alignment back to you. You don't create synchronicity by force, you allow it by presence. It's not about chasing signs, it's about becoming attuned to them. The more conscious you become, the more you notice these moments and recognize them for what they are: divine feedback. They are confirmations that you're being guided, that something greater is paying attention, and that your journey is unfolding in coordination with a higher will. In those moments, reality becomes interactive, participatory, and deeply personal. There comes a point in your journey where the life you've carefully constructed begins to feel too small for your spirit. Everything on the outside might still look the same: your job, your relationships, your routines. But inside, something feels unsettled. That feeling is not a problem to be fixed. It's a signal to be understood. When God wants your attention, one of the most profound ways he speaks is through a rising restlessness within your soul. It doesn't come with instructions or explanations. It doesn't always make sense to the rational mind. But it carries a frequency that's impossible to ignore. It's not anxiety rooted in fear, and it's not depression born from despair. It's something deeper, an inner pull, a stirring, a silent urge that tells you there's more. This restlessness is sacred. It's the early stage of awakening. It's the soul remembering who it is beneath the programming, beneath the patterns, beneath the protective layers you've built. You start to feel misaligned with what once felt normal. Conversations that used to interest you begin to feel empty. Habits that once distracted you no longer satisfy. You might even find yourself grieving, not because something ended, but because something inside you is ready to begin, and you don't yet know what it is. In that space of uncertainty, the ego scrambles to regain control. It tries to label the discomfort, to medicate it, to run from it. But the discomfort is not the enemy, it's the message. It's the divine invitation to explore the parts of yourself you've outgrown, to question the identity you've been living, and to step into the unknown terrain of your becoming. Restlessness is the prelude to revelation. It is the soul's way of reaching beyond the current version of life you've accepted as truth. God rarely communicates through thunder or spectacle. More often, the divine speaks through subtlety, through patterns, repetitions, nudges that seem almost invisible unless you're paying close attention. When God wants your attention, he doesn't impose, he invites. He plants clues in your daily life, gently repeating certain themes, phrases, numbers, encounters, and experiences until something in you begins to stir. It could be a song that keeps showing up at the right moment, a symbol that appears across different contexts, or a dream that won't leave your mind. These aren't mere coincidences. They are whispers, codes embedded in your reality, calling you to wake up, to notice, to align. Most people miss these signs not because they're hidden, but because their minds are too loud and their lives too busy. The divine doesn't compete with chaos. It flows in stillness, in awareness, in presence. That's why the signs become more visible when you slow down, when you start to listen more than you speak, when you begin to sense instead of just think. And once you become aware of how God communicates, you start to recognize that life is never random. Every repeated pattern is a message wrapped in energy. Every coincidence is an opening into deeper consciousness. This kind of communication doesn't use words. It uses resonance. You don't hear it with your ears. You feel it in your body, in your intuition, in your knowing. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to the soul. These divine patterns are not just there to catch your attention. They're designed to guide you, to show you where your energy is aligned or misaligned, where you've been asleep, and where you're being called to wake up. As your awareness increases, you realize these signs have always been there. You just weren't yet ready to see them. The unknown is not something to fear. It is the very space where transformation begins. When God wants your attention, He will often lead you into the unfamiliar, not to punish you, but to invite you into expansion. The known is comfortable, but it's also predictable, repetitive, and often built from your past experiences, traumas, and beliefs. It holds no room for miracles, no space for genuine change. So the divine will gently, or sometimes abruptly, push you out of the life you've grown too small for. And in that moment, you are left standing on the edge of the unknown, without a map, without certainty, and without the old identity that once made you feel safe. This space feels disorienting because the ego craves control. It wants to define the future before it arrives, to cling to what is familiar, even if that familiarity brings suffering. But the unknown does not operate by the rules of control. It operates by the laws of trust, surrender, and creation. It's in the unknown where your nervous system must learn to settle without answers, where your mind must learn to observe without reacting, and where your soul finally has the room to speak without being drowned out by noise. Everything you desire lives in this space. Every breakthrough, every shift, every new chapter begins when you step beyond the boundary of what you already know. The unknown is where the divine meets you halfway. It's where your faith is tested not by external events, but by your ability to stay present without needing to fix, grasp, or escape. The person you are becoming cannot emerge in the old environment, with the old thoughts and emotions. It is only in the unfamiliar that a new frequency of being can be born. You are not simply a passive observer of the world around you. You are a participant in it, co-creating your reality with every thought, emotion, and action. When God wants your attention, He reminds you of this profound truth. You are in communion with the field of energy that surrounds you. This isn't some abstract concept, it's a scientific reality. The energy you emit through your thoughts and feelings directly influences the world you experience. You are not separate from life, you are part of it. The universe is not a distant entity. It is a living, breathing field of intelligence that responds to you, and you to it. In each moment, you are interacting with this field, whether you realize it or not. The thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, and the beliefs you hold create ripples that extend outward, influencing the quantum field in ways that are often invisible to the naked eye. But when you begin to see life this way, you start to notice how reality begins to mirror your inner state. When you're aligned with love, gratitude, and peace, the world reflects back harmony and joy. When you're stuck in fear, doubt, and scarcity, life reflects that too. It's a dynamic interaction. And this is where divine intelligence communicates with you, not through commands, but through the flow of life itself. The more conscious you become of this dynamic relationship, the more you begin to see the synchronicities, feel the subtle guidance, and notice the signs that are always present. You're no longer just watching life unfold. You're actively engaged in it. And it is through this engagement that the divine can guide you, shape your path, and direct your steps toward your highest potential. You are not merely reacting to life, you are interacting with it, co-creating your experience with every moment. Change does not begin in the outer world, it begins within you. The reality you experience is a direct reflection of your inner world, the beliefs you hold, the emotions you feel, and the energy you emit. When God wants your attention, He doesn't just send you signs in the physical world. He starts by shifting the internal terrain. The divine knows that the greatest transformation you will ever experience happens when you change your energy, when you shift your emotional state, and rewire the neural pathways that have kept you stuck in repetitive patterns. The external world, for all its complexity, is only a mirror of what is happening inside. If you continue to think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and react in the same ways, your life will remain locked in a cycle. However, when you begin to reprogram your inner reality, when you consciously choose to raise your vibration, to see life through a lens of possibility rather than limitation, to move from fear to love, your external reality will inevitably shift. The universe responds to your internal state by bringing you opportunities, people, and experiences that align with the energy you put out. This internal shift is not about changing the world outside of you, it's about changing your relationship with it. You become more aware of how your perceptions, judgments, and emotional patterns shape your experiences. As you elevate your internal state, you begin to see the world differently. What was once a problem becomes an opportunity for growth. What felt like a limitation becomes an invitation for expansion. When you take control of your inner world, when you align your thoughts and emotions with the truth of your highest potential, the outer world must respond in kind. Your inner change creates the space for your outer world to follow. You are not just an observer in this world, you are a creator. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every belief you hold sends out energy into the quantum field, shaping your reality. When God wants your attention, He shows you the incredible power you have to influence the fabric of existence itself. You are constantly interacting with the quantum field, a vast web of energy where all possibilities exist. The thoughts and emotions you project are not just abstract. They are powerful signals that communicate with this field, drawing back to you experiences that match your energy. This understanding is at the core of transformation. The field responds to your energetic vibration, your inner state. When you think about something with focus and intensity, you send out a wave of energy that has the potential to manifest in physical reality. If you are consistently thinking thoughts of lack, fear, or doubt, you create a reality that mirrors those energies. But if you shift your thoughts to abundance, gratitude, and possibility, the field responds by bringing experiences that align with those energies. You are not powerless in this process, you are the force that shapes your world. The key is to become conscious of the energy you're emitting. Every day, you are constantly co-creating your reality with the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs you hold. When you change the way you think and feel, you change the signals you send to the quantum field. And in turn, the field responds with new possibilities, opportunities, and experiences that reflect the new you. The divine intelligence that governs this vast field does not dictate your fate. It responds to your vibration. As you align your energy with your highest potential, you begin to notice how your external reality shifts to match that energy. The field is waiting to reflect back to you the truth of who you are. Vision is the language of the future, and when God wants your attention, He often speaks to you through a new vision of your life. This vision is not about what you currently have, it's about what is waiting for you on the other side of your limitations. It's an image of a future that exists beyond your current identity, beyond the patterns and habits that have kept you locked in the past. This vision is a glimpse into the person you are meant to become, a higher expression of yourself that is calling you into a new chapter. But to step into this new version of yourself, you must first let go of the old one. When this vision arises within you, It often comes with a sense of awe and wonder. It feels like a deep knowing, an intuitive understanding of what is possible if you allow yourself to move beyond fear, past the boundaries of your comfort zone. At the same time, this vision can also be terrifying because it requires you to release the identity that has defined you up until now. The old self, built from past experiences and survival mechanisms, is often deeply attached to its fears, limitations, and familiar patterns. The vision of the future requires that you dismantle this old identity, step into the unknown, and trust that something greater is emerging. This is the divine invitation to awaken to the highest version of yourself. It is a call to transcend your current reality and align with a new future. The challenge is not just to see the vision, but to live it, to begin thinking, feeling, and acting as if that future is already here. As you do, the universe begins to rearrange itself to support your transformation, and that vision starts to manifest into reality. When you begin to awaken to a higher state of consciousness, you realize that you are not simply an individual moving through the world. You are a conduit through which divine energy flows. This understanding shifts everything. When God wants your attention, He doesn't just give you signs to lead you to a better version of yourself. He invites you to become a vessel for something greater, to let that divine intelligence move through you and shape the world around you. This isn't about your personal power or achievement. It's about aligning with a force that is far beyond your individual will. You become a channel, a bridge between the divine and the material world, where your actions, words, and intentions reflect a deeper intelligence. When you align with this higher energy, life no longer feels like a struggle. It begins to feel like an effortless flow, as if you are moving in harmony with the universe. The decisions you make are no longer based solely on your limited perspective or past experiences. Instead, they come from a place of intuitive knowing, where the right choices appear naturally, and the right people and opportunities show up at the perfect time. You become a participant in a greater story, one that is not driven by fear, scarcity, or ego, but by a sense of purpose, love, and trust in the process. As a conduit for divine energy, you begin to experience synchronicities with increasing frequency. Things happen for you instead of to you. Your actions no longer feel forced or out of alignment. They feel guided, as if the universe is working with you, not against you. This alignment is the result of stepping into your true power, not the egoic, individual power you've known, but the quiet, powerful force that flows through you when you surrender to the divine plan.